Hello everyone, it's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel, tap the notification bell, I'd appreciate it majorly. So I just saw that it is now confirmed by the authorities. The Rexburg Police Department put out a release confirming the identities of the remains of the two children found buried on the Daybell property that was searched on Tuesday, I believe, at 7 a.m. And it is, in fact, according to the Rexburg Police Department, it is the two missing kids, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. So, prior to that, the family members on both sides, the Tylee family as well as Kay Woodcock, Kay Vallow Woodcock, and I think it's Larry Woodcock, had confirmed, that the two sets of remains were the kids. But now the authorities have done it. It basically reads that the medical examiner has positively identified the remains as the kids. I believe the medical examiner is, I think it's a woman in Ada County, is the county that basically did the autopsy for this at this point for this case. As I had looked into Idaho, I believe one county in particular does a lot of the autopsies for the remainder of the counties in the state. I believe that's Ada County, which I guess is Boise, Idaho. I'm not absolutely certain of that. In any event, that's what the news is for now. I don't have much more to say on it other than, I've had this crazy theory, that I had this idea that some of these people have managed to fake their deaths. That's obviously a pretty far out there theory. I'm a pretty average guy. I don't know. I guess I'm inclined to conspiracy theories a bit, but this one I happen to believe pretty strongly. So I haven't even absolutely convinced myself, but I still kind of do believe that, in spite of this news. One of the things I've noticed, some of the reporting on on the Daybell family and their reaction to this, and the statements put out since the remains were found, and and the neighbor who apparently called the police or alerted to the police to the bonfires that had taken place, this spring as well as last fall. And even the reporting on that was a little bit jumbled. Some of it didn't necessarily line up just because, the story wasn't totally straight. The individual, I think his name's Matthew Price, that lives across the street and has for the last 5 years across the street from Chad and Tammy Daybell. And he reported that, there was two large bonfires by Chad Daybell this spring, as well as one last fall. And I think that's where some of the reporting wasn't totally clear, whether it was before or after Tammy Daybell's death. I think after a number of few different reports, that it basically seemed as though it was like a week after Tammy Daybell's death, where Chad supposedly had a large bonfire in the back, the back of the property, as well as the two in early this spring, and that's after Tammy Daybell's death. But there's also, he told the story of Chad and either Tammy or Chad and Lori, and it wasn't real clear because it was reported differently in different reports, came to his home, I think a week before Tammy Daybell's death or a week after. It's, again, the reporting's just wanting to buy pumpkins, and that Chad's behavior was real strange. You wouldn't look him in the eye and wasn't real chatty, when normally he was real friendly and would always look you in the eye and engage you. So a couple of the issue of the bonfires is, let's just assume that maybe the children were killed, because they went missing. The last time they were seen is early in mid-September, September 9th for, I think, Tylee in Yellowstone Park, and September 23rd for JJ at his school was the last time he was seen. And then Tammy Daybell died October 19th, and reportedly he had a huge fire in his backyard a week after Tammy Daybell's death. But let's say the children just, and these things are, difficult to talk over, but let's say the children were, that's the bonfire after the week of Tammy Daybell's death. were disposed of then. My question would be, why, if that's the case, why would Chad then go and have two additional bonfires in the spring of this year after Lori's in prison and he's returned to his own home, where his children were actually there the morning of. I guess they had gotten maybe word that this was coming, I don't know. But why would he have bonfires in the spring, drawing attention to that, if he in fact possibly disposed of if the bodies were disposed of in the bonfire that was supposedly allegedly taking place a week after Tylee Daybell's death? Why would he do that? And if that's not the case, if he was getting rid of the bodies then, I mean, why did he do it twice? And then what was the bonfire a week after Tylee Daybell's death? And I've gone over these things before, and then I'll just end this video and move on for the time being. But the family didn't request an autopsy for Tylee Daybell when she died in her sleep. I think she was 49 years old. I'm not absolutely certain of that. Which I think many people thought was unusual, and that's how it was reported. Now it's being reported that Chad didn't request the autopsy. So the husband of a wife who normally, in almost any circumstances where a person who dies at a fairly young age without a previous medical history, I mean, normally, the number one suspect is the husband. He supposedly, now they're reporting that he didn't request the autopsy, but normally that wouldn't even be his choice, because if there's a homicide, that would be the number one suspect. He wouldn't be given that option. So, because before it was said that the family declined the autopsy, but now it's being reported that way. But if you recall, there was the Facebook post by Tammy, I think 10 days prior to her death, that somebody had approached her in a ski mask with a gun. She called it like a paint pellet gun, and we don't know what type of gun it was, in her driveway when she was getting groceries out of the car. One evening, Chad is in the house reportedly, and she actually ultimately at the end of that encounter screamed out to Chad, and the supposed masked gunman fled and took off. And she said he took shots at her, but it either misfired or wasn't loaded. So, and that's 10 days prior to her dying in her sleep, and yet still nobody requested an autopsy. I continue to believe my theory. I do, and that's the story there. All right, well, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.